Hello, you're watching Global Insight, where we speak to experts from around the world on issues making headlines. I'm Also Young. In a time of tension in world politics and economic uncertainty, traditionally transatlantic countries have turned towards this part of the world. The Indo-Pacific has been conceptualized by a growing number of governments, including the US, Japan, the UK and the EU, as well as Canada, as a key arena to secure their national interest and competitiveness going forward. As countries with their Indo-Pacific strategies turn and pivot towards this region, South Korea itself is becoming a pivotal state in stabilizing the dynamics of competition and cooperation, declaring its own signature plan for the region. Further details are being worked on, but we're hoping to get a preview of this today from one of the architects of South Korea's own Indo-Pacific strategy. We have joining us today Im Sang-woo, Director General of North American Affairs from our Foreign Ministry. Welcome back to Global Insight, Director General.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show again.
Well, it's lovely to see you, and I understand that you're just back from this whole series of multilateral summits that President Yoon Suk-yeol was on. So let's start with that. What kind of key developments have we seen over the past week?
Yes, actually, I just came back from a series of meetings yesterday, and from my point of view, the most important bilateral meeting that was held during this series of summits was the summit meeting between our president and President Biden. We had a full bilateral meeting on the margins of the ASEAN summit, and the presidents really talked about a whole range of issues between Korea and the U.S., especially reaffirming their commitment to develop our alliance into a global, comprehensive and strategic alliance. So in that sense, we also explained the elements of our Indo-Pacific strategy, and President Biden, of course, welcomed our Indo-Pacific strategy, and also North Korea was one of the topics that we discussed, and both leaders reconfirmed the importance of strengthening our extended deterrence to deal with the North Korean threat. So that was the bilateral with the United States, and also we had a trilateral Korea, U.S. Japan trilateral summit, which of course was a really important opportunity to reaffirm the three countries working together to deal with the North Korean nuclear and missile threat. But beyond that, we also confirmed how important it is for all three of us to work for regional as well as global challenges, to tackle these challenges together. And we came up with a very comprehensive joint statement that laid out the path for our trilateral cooperation, not only on the Korean Peninsula, but going beyond really the peninsula into the Indo-Pacific region and beyond.
Right, and this trilateral summit, it really it also highlighted the importance of really working together on North Korea, which shot more than 80 ballistic missiles over during this past year. And well, how is the government really preparing to respond to that? If they, do you see them sort of ramping up their provocations?
Yes, we're not ruling out any scenarios. We're watching very closely. And there are worrying signs that North Korea will continue on this path of provocation. But rest assured, we're really in close consultation, not only with the United States, but also Japan, and also the international community as a whole. We are all very much stern and firm in our message to North Korea that these kind of provocations are not acceptable, and should the North Korea really come up with a major provocation, that it will have to deal with the consequences. The international community are all really behind us in working together to bring peace and stability back to the peninsula. So at the same time, we're open for dialogue. We've always been open to dialogue to North Korea. We've offered them a plan to go forward if they decide to go on the path of denuclearization. We're ready to offer assistance and support to North Korea.
Right, and now I want to focus more on the Indo-Pacific strategy. And well, South Korea introducing its own Indo-Pacific strategy seems like quite a big step that it's taking as a global pivotal state in the making. And actually some have, well, they've expressed some wariness over this move, saying maybe Korea's not really ready because, in the past we kept this sort of strategic ambiguity up. And well, what do you think, though? I mean, is this a good time to do you think it's time for this coming of age moment? Are we ready to make that kind of transition?
Well, I actually think that it's a bit too late in coming. Korea, as you know very well, is one of the largest economies in the world. We I think we're ranked the 10th largest economy in the world. And also, I think the biggest aspect of our Korean foreign policy is this very fact that we're the only country in the world that was able to achieve economic development and become a full-fledged democracy at the same time. And this is in no part, of course, the Korean people worked very hard to achieve this, but without the international community helping us, it would not have been possible. So I think it's a bit late, really, it's for us to come up with this Indo-Pacific strategy, which really is an embodiment of our vision of what Korea can do to contribute more to the region. We have specifically 3 pillars that we laid out in our Indo-Pacific strategy, which is freedom, peace, and prosperity. And we would really would like to strengthen our cooperation with our friends and partners in the region to make the Indo-Pacific region a free, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific.
I see. And President Yoon Suk-yeol, when he was talking about this strategy, he gave a slight teaser because I believe you're working on the finer details of that strategy. But he said that it's going to be based on a rules-based order with 3 arms, really, based on reciprocity, trust, and inclusivity, I believe. And could you elaborate on why you chose these words and what they really indicate?
Sure. So those 3 words, those are the basic principles with which we would like to pursue our Indo-Pacific strategy. And the first is inclusivity, which really means that this strategy it includes everyone in the region. We're not going to exclude a certain country or target a certain country, but really in the spirit of working together to mold a region where everybody can enjoy sustainable growth. So that's the spirit of inclusivity. Second is trust. And I think trust is really the foundation upon which you have to build your relationship if you want to have a long-term relationship. And to have a reliable, trustworthy relationship, you have to be transparent. So the trust also embodies our commitment to be transparent in our interaction with our partners and friends in the region. And last is reciprocity, and that also, it stems from our philosophy, our thinking that it has to be really for everyone, not for A country or B country, but it really has, our strategy will be, we aspire to become a nation that brings benefit to all. So that's and as I said, we being probably the only country in the world that has recently been able to develop our economy and become a full-fledged democracy. I think we have a lot to share in this aspect to other nations in the region that aspire to go on that path.
Right, and many deem 2009 to 10 as South Korea's sort of highlight moment when it went from being a recipient to donor of international aid. But I think this would really be another sort of shining moment for South Korea as well, because Koreans do care about democracy, and as a liberal democracy, they've really these values that you mentioned are enshrined very much in the hearts of the Korean public. And the thing is, though, there's this recurring debate. It just keeps coming back over and over again. Is South Korea aligning more towards Washington or Beijing? Which side is it going to choose? And some observers, they seem to be really focusing on little words that we have out of your Indo-Pacific strategy so far. Even the term Indo-Pacific, words like freedom, they're saying that it puts South Korea more towards the US. But others are saying, oh, South Korea is leaning more towards China than thought since the beginning of this year or something like that. So we see these sort of divisive stances on this. And well, do you think people are reading too much into detail at this point? And well, how do you think we should really be looking at South Korea's rather unique position in this part of the world?
Sure. Well, let me first start up by saying that our Indo-Pacific strategy is really our vision, our goal. It embodies what we would like to do in the region, and that stems from our overall foreign policy direction, which, as you know very well, is embodied in the Global Pivotal State Initiative. So this Indo-Pacific strategy is all about Korea doing more, taking on a larger responsibility and role to make a positive contribution to the region. It's not about Korea, whether Korea is lining up with this country or that country. So, and the three pillars, I think a lot of people would, I don't think anybody would be against those three pillars that I laid out. And in terms of values, you know, freedom, democracy, rule of law, that's something that really is deep in everyone's mind, and especially from the Korean point of view, that's our identity. And we think that, you know, all the partners and friends and the countries in the region all have a stake in contributing to strengthening this freedom pillar. And so I don't think there's any there's nothing to read too much into what we laid out in our Indo-Pacific strategy.
Right. And well, to compare South Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy, or what we know of it, of course, you know everything at this point, but
No.
so other countries, countries like the UK, France, the EU as a whole, the US, they've been turning their focus to this region. Largely because of economic security as well, in the interest of protecting maritime cables and opening up new trade opportunities. So what's your plan for South Korea's economic security?
Yes, economic security configures very importantly in our Indo-Pacific strategy. As you know very well, now the world is going through a transitional period. The order that we were used to, this free trade order, is actually is being replaced by a more concern for economic security. So building supply chain resiliency is a big part of our Indo-Pacific strategy, and of course we'll be working with our friends in the region on specific areas such as high-tech industries, and also there are some countries that I think we can help in bridging the digital divide. But at the same time, we think that it would be conducive to growth for everybody if we can build a fair and open, economic order that was actually the basis upon which Korea was able to develop our economy because we are an open trading nation. So that's the economic part of our Indo-Pacific strategy.
Sure, and well, talking about economic security, well, Seoul and Brussels, even Tokyo, they've been a bit anxious about Washington's Inflation Reduction Act, of course, and I believe this came up during President Yoon's conversation with President Biden. And well, did you see any positive signaling from the US?
Well, let's say that you know, the U.S. side really clearly understands how important it is for us, for our Korean companies, our concern on the Inflation Reduction Act. and the U.S. side really appreciates the contribution that Korea has made, all the investments, especially in these very important industries such as semiconductors. And President Biden himself, he recently sent a letter to our president addressing this very important issue. So yes, we're in discussion with the U.S. side to address this very important issue, and we'll see what comes out of these consultations.
Right. Thank you very much, Director General Yoon Sang-woo of South Korea's Foreign Ministry, North American Affairs.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you in our studio again.
Thank you for having me in your studio. Thank you.
Also, thank you very much to our viewers for tuning in. Global Insight will be back on Monday, South Korea time. Do tune in then and have a wonderful weekend wherever you are. Goodbye.